Hi, I'm Dr. Tim McGrew. I'm a Christian philosopher, and I enjoy building connections with people at Atheist Edge.
95% of the book of Mark can be found in Matthew, and about 65% of Mark can be found in Luke. Additionally, a substantial percentage of New Testament scholars have hypothesized the existence of a tentatively named Q document, which may contain material that both Matthew and Luke share, but was not plagiarized from Mark. Ask yourself, do the Gospels look like independent testimonies to you?
Muhammad broke a peace treaty with the peaceful Jewish farmers in the Khaybar oasis. After the massacre, Muhammad poured burning oil on the chest of the farmers' leader, Kanana, and then ordered him to be beheaded. Muhammad married Kanana's 17-year-old wife, Sophia, on the same day.
Okay, Big Daddy, it's going to take a little while to unpack this one, I think. First off, like I said before, he probably needs a new PR team. One that isn't putting out the info that, he's a serious kitty diddler. This is an ongoing thing with them. Okay, but then, it's like kitty diddling, not enough. Let's kick it up a notch. It's your daddy's head. Is that wrong? Maybe, yeah. I was wrong. I know that now.
Slap your... Wow, man.
Now, that's a bad Zoom date. That's unfortunate on all levels. Awkward.
Oh, no. And he said, you cannot see my face. For no man sees me and live. And the Lord said, behold, there is a place by me, and you will stand upon a rock. I will cover you with my hand while I pass by. And I will take away my hand, and you will see my backside, but my face shall not be seen. God's just being very dramatic here. What difference will it make whether he sees his face, his backside? What difference is this going to make to anyone?
God killed a man for shooting his load on the ground instead of knocking up his sister-in-law. Yeah, okay, this is a weird one. All of these are weird ones, aren't they? So this is the story of Onan. Well, it's really the story of Onanism. So Onanism is a sort of an old-fashioned term for masturbation, which comes from this story. And it's the masturbation aspect is really the least weird part of this whole story, quite frankly. So this is from Genesis chapter 38. And this is a story that involves one of Jacob's sons. So Jacob had 12 sons, and one of them was called Judah, who eventually his name was given to the southern kingdom its entirety, and kind of stands in for the good part of the remnant of Israel. So Judah got married. He took a wife. He took a wife from I think she was Canaanite. So at this time, there was really no issue. Of course, this was before Moses and before the Egyptian and the slavery and all that kind of stuff. But back then, apparently, taking a Canaanite wife was no big deal. But so he took a wife. She gave him 3 sons, my 3 sons, and then I think she either died or She just sort of disappears from the story. Nobody cares. And his sons were named Er, Onan, and Shelah. And so what happened was so grew up and was ready to get married himself. And Judah found a wife for and she found some woman whose name was Tamar. The story doesn't actually say why this was the case, but for whatever reason, the firstborn, was evil in the sight of Yahweh. Whatever that means, I don't know. I mean, so we sort of assume that evil in the sight of Yahweh means that you're a bad person, but remember, this was back in a time, and the people who are putting this together have an idea of evil in the sight of Yahweh as meaning just didn't care about going to the temple, or didn't care about sacrificing animals to Yahweh, or didn't pay the proper reverence to this or that holy place, right? So that would be evil in the sight of Yahweh. It doesn't necessarily mean that he was a liar or cheater or murderer or whatever. But at any rate, so he did evil in the sight of Yahweh, and Yahweh killed him. It actually says that in the story. Yahweh killed him. So it's very direct cause and effect there. You do evil in the sight of Yahweh, and Yahweh will smoke your ass. All right, so then Judah goes to his second-born son, who's named Onan. And he tells Onan that you have to... I've gotten this wife for your older brother, Tamar. And your brother died before he could give her any children. So women have no... she'd been given in marriage already, so she was not a virgin anymore, which meant that she didn't have any value then as a wife. Nobody would take her in. Nobody would want to marry her. And she hadn't had any sons of her own to take care of her. So she was kind of stuck in this society. That's the way it worked. And Yahweh didn't have any problem with that. Anyway, so Judah tells Onan, it's your duty as the brother-in-law, that you've got to get her pregnant. So she married your brother in the hopes that she would get pregnant by your brother, but your brother died or was killed by Yahweh. So she needs to get children, and she married into our family, so she needs children from our family. And he doesn't like this. Not because she's bad looking or whatever, but because he knows that any children that he has with her will not technically be his. Even though biologically they will be his, they will be counted as the children of his older brother. And he doesn't like this idea. And so he says, all right, fine, I will have sex with her, but I'm going to do everything I can not to get her pregnant. So he goes into her tent, he has sex with her, but when it comes to the moment of climax, he pulls out and coitus interruptus. So he lets his seed fall into the dirt. And that is an affront to Yahweh, because the thing that Judah told Onan to do was what Yahweh wanted. Yahweh wanted Onan to get his sister-in-law pregnant. And by pulling out and ejaculating on the floor, on the ground, he was really contravening the will of Yahweh. And so Yahweh struck him dead. So that's 2 sons dead now. At any rate, so the sin of Onan was to allow his seed to fall on the ground. And that has been then interpreted as being, well, anytime you have sex, or anytime you engage in any sort of sexual activity as a male and allow your seed to fall on the ground, which means essentially if you're having sex without copulation, which is really it just leaves masturbation, or coitus interruptus in this particular case. So because masturbation is completed when your seed falls upon the ground, so to speak, that is a sin in the eyes of God. And so onanism is considered a sin as masturbation. And Mark Twain actually wrote a little something about onanism, which I highly recommend. It's very funny, as is pretty much anything he writes. But anyway, so that's onanism. That's dropping your seed upon the ground. That's not where the story ends, and that's not the weirdest thing to happen by far. So is dead, Onan is dead, and Tamar still has no children. So she goes to Judah and says, well, look, I gotta have some kids here, or else I'm screwed. So what are you gonna do? You've got one son left. Can I have him? Basically. And Judah is at this point kind of rightfully worried, and he tells Tamar, well, look, he's still too young to do anything like this. So just wait. We'll put this on hold, and I will get back to you. And as soon as the youngest one, Shelah, is of age. But then the time comes and passes. So Shelah grows up, and Tamar notices this, and Judah has still not set up any sort of liaison or, shall we say, contribution on Shelah's part. And so she decides to take matters into her own hands, and she hears that Judah is going on this little trip out of town, next town over, basically, sort of a thing. And so she puts on the clothing of a prostitute. And I should specify, when I say prostitute, I don't really mean like someone who has chosen having sex for money as a way of making a living. There was a class of people in the ancient Near East that were, and again, this gets back to this sort of recurring concept in the ancient Near East that there was something sacred about sex, that there was something ritualistically significant and important about sex, and that you could impart worship either the gods or worship the life force itself by engaging in sex, sacred sex. And so there were prostitutes who would have sex in exchange for money, but in the context of doing something of religious significance. I like to call these people priestitutes, because it kind of is a class of people, or in a category that we don't really have in this day and age. But it's like someone for whom having sex with them is like a religious obligation, or at least a religiously good thing to do. Anyway, so she dresses up like one of those people. I don't know why she has that outfit, but she dresses up like one of those people. And she goes and she pitches a tent on the side of the road where she knows Judah is going to be traveling. And he sees her there, and she's got a veil on, so he can't see her face, but she's otherwise attractive, I suppose. And he says, oh, hey, how about a quick stop and, gas up, let's say. So sure. So he goes in, he has sex with her. The whole time he's thinking she's a prostitute. She knows it's Judah. She knows who he is. So she knows she's having sex with her father-in-law. He thinks he's having sex with some random woman. Afterwards, he says, all right, well, for payment, I'll send along a goat to you. And she says, well, I've got to have some token of yours that I'll hold on to until the goat comes. And he says, all right, fine. Here's my ring, my special ring that everybody knows is mine. I'll give this to you. And once I send the goat, you send that back to me. And she says, all right, fine. So he goes on his merry way. She packs up all of her stuff and goes back home and disappears. So when he sends the goat to her, he sends somebody with the goat, and there's nobody there. And they're like, what are you talking about? There's nobody here. There's no prostitutes or whatever. And he's like, well, I don't get it. You know, maybe somebody's playing a joke on me or something like that. We'll just forget it. If we tell anybody what happened, we're just going to be made fun of. So let's just pretend it never happened. Well, then a few months later, it turns out that when he had sex with Tamar, he got her pregnant. So she's pregnant now. And she starts showing, and people know that she's pregnant. And everybody's thinking, wait a minute. She's still supposed to be the widow, the grieving widow. And so how in the heck did she get pregnant? And so everybody in the village is attacking her and accusing her. And she comes out and says, and she holds up the ring. She says, the father of my child is the one that this ring belongs to. And so she gives the ring to them, and they say, well, wait a minute, this is Judah's ring. So they bring it to Judah, and he says, she's right. She's right, because I was supposed to give her Shelah, my son, my third son, to give her a child, and I didn't. And so she was right to trick me and to take my semen from me and get pregnant with it. And that is a real story. That's in the Old Testament. So, yeah, it's not exactly a guideline for everyone, but that's something that really happened.